There is no
camera action.
All right, and we are live. Yeah, we're live.
I'm joking.
Oh, bad joke. Anyways, sorry for missing the last couple weeks. Thank you for coming to Spoken Word with Raz. Today we are here with me, Raz, my angry and tired and just getting over sickness girlfriend Ashley, and Morgan, who
Voila.
uh hey, yeah, just getting over being sick. That don't really have anything planned to talk about. But these want to talk about the sickness because we had the
Plague.
The sickness. The flu. The
I
one
think
that all the kids are talking about.
I think on YouTube people
China.
call it the coof.
That yeah. You know what? Yeah.
But
The
yeah,
coup.
the coof.
I was just gonna call it the China, but
Yeah. Oh man, it is nice finally being back to this. I hated this last 2 weeks.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
getting unbearable.
What?
Yeah, I can imagine.
You don't know how you are, but there is a reason why I forced you to go talk to
Explain.
you. Lose your mind if you cannot talk to someone. It gets to a point that you get irritable just because you can't talk to someone. And then you also go like, oh, I don't feel like talking to someone right now. And I'll look at you and say, bitch. Talk.
Yeah, but I like how sick I was. There was no way I was going to talk to anybody.
Yeah, that's fair. But you were still going to be irritable.
Well, yeah, I was sick. We're sick. Okay, so we do have one thing to talk about. Me and her cannot be sick together.
Because both of us become used to this.
We also
Wow.
get super irritable at each other.
I'm
I mean-
hard-headed. Baby. Irritable.
I am usually not irritable, but having you being incredibly okay, when you're sick, you are the most incredibly difficult person.
Yes.
For no reason. Literally, no reason. You will literally do nothing to take care of yourself.
I need.
At least when I'm sick, I still take care of myself.
That's debatable.
I do. I still
If
remember
I
to take
shove
my
it in
medicine.
your face.
No, if I remember to take my
Yeah.
that time you're talking about, I was literally having fever dreams. Like
But even when you're regularly sick, especially when you're like just something, or no, baby.
Sorry, Morgan, I know you're hearing our relationship issues on
Relationship issues. I don't know if that's the right word for that. I think you're looking for a word that starts with an H.
What?
Hell.
What about hell? What about hell? What about hell?
I'm not getting involved. I just stand on the sidelines.
You're choosing the wrong path. You should be completely.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. I usually I usually go. I don't know how I usually handle these things. Being what's the word I'm looking?
My ass.
I mean,
it's multiple words, but it's back to what you're. Or do you want
you chose this?
A more positive connotation word, like determination. Yeah, we'll
hold on. You can't complain. I upfront explained everything about myself and my baggage and everything like that.
Yeah.
And you still signed up. And then you Pikachu faced me. Because suddenly you realize, oh, unlike other people, he's really like this.
Yeah.
And then, when you finally had that realization, you stayed.
And? Are you complaining?
No, you are.
How we are.
I was going to say we started with Ash saying that she was tired and that she was sort of meh. So I'm not surprised that the conversation took the turn that it did.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I woke up from passing out at late. That
Yeah, it was about 10.
10 minutes before it started.
Yeah, no, I'd be cranky as. It takes me at least an hour to wake up in the morning and an awful lot of caffeine. So, yeah, even after a 10-minute nap or a 20-minute nap, yeah, I need time. I'm not a pleasant person all the time, as I think I've demonstrated quite a few times.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to be realistic, start with me being cranky. I'm tired and I can't because of sleep schedule. And also,
Yeah.
I know we have a podcast. I know what time. I had a phone laying right next to me. I passed out while on my phone watching a video.
Oh, we haven't even got to the worst part of it, is that after we do this, we have to go to my mother's.
Yes, but I
Oh,
wasn't
really?
done.
Yeah.
And then you turn to me and you say, "You need to stop." Yes, I know.
She acts like I'm just a douchebag in the situation when she's not giving you the full details of how she acts.
Full details, I'm a bitch.
I told you to go back to sleep, but she chose to stay up. And then
No, what you said was you could stay up, you could get breakfast, back to hours.
then why didn't you?
Did it? And then you
You
also
were gonna sleep
last
sleep time with me still awake all the time.
Oh no, here's the thing. Last time I asked you for a nap, you said no because you
I sadly am awake and I hate it.
I'm not.
But, I learned to live with it. I have done this for
live with
many
it.
years. Many years.
Where's the Alt F4?
They don't have one for humans. I mean, they do.
That's
They do.
debatable.
They do.
That's
But
debatable.
but you can't reprogram it like you can.
Did I ask for reprogramming?
Uh,
I asked for end tasks.
This is going fantastic. How are you, Morgan?
Yeah, I'm good. Sort of like trying not to interject at the wrong moment. All I can say is that I'm pro naps, so whoever's voting for naps, that's who I'm behind. But yeah, no, I'm good. I'm not gonna lie, I'm quite tired as well. I've been sort of like trying not to do the procrastinating thing, so I've been getting up each day and doing so much stuff each day, and trying to tick off things on the list. But it's tiring. By the time I get to sort of this time in the evening, yeah, I'm sort of like I'm beaten by it a little bit especially after being out for sort of like on and off for a month after being sick and having my bad back and stuff like that. But yeah, otherwise I'm good. I think. No,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let me think how. So I guess we should just catch up for what the last 2 weeks been like for everyone. The last
Yeah.
podcast. Let's see here. Well, the last podcast was actually 3 weeks ago. Skip 2 weeks. Got this week.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a
Yeah.
while since we've even had a conversation, I think.
Yeah.
I know he's told me to, but I suck at English and have no social. I know.
Yeah.
Morgan, can you just randomly message her sometime? Just she's
Y-
going to have to learn how to small talk and lead to actually making friendships and stop being so
Sounds like
effort. Yeah,
no,
weird
no. What
friendship.
what's the nice version of waste of
There isn't a
Well, thanks.
wow.
No.
Ashley, you just literally called Morgan. You literally
she's just the
you literally called her a waste of time.
No, it's all right. I'm equally as socially awkward when I want to be. It's surprising for somebody who is quite confident and just mouse my way through most situations how actually socially awkward I am. So it's all right, babe. I get it.
See, this is where I differ from like all the other nerds and weirdos. I know I'm socially incompetent.
Oh
I
yeah,
just
me
don't
too.
care. I just don't care.
I
Oh,
absolutely
Huh?
but
I know you care.
see, no, this is the thing is I have a self awareness about it. Like I'm very self aware. It's just that
Yeah.
that doesn't kick in until after the fact. Like in the social situation, like I would just spontaneously on sort of trigger, just go off on and be unadulterated myself.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
100% proof Morgan. And then later on that night, I'll be sat there going like, why did you say these things? Why do you do these things? And then, so, and
I
then I go on to be socially awkward.
I do the I have the the random brain giving you cringe moments of things you've said and done. I hate that. I hate that because I'll linger on it for a while, um, but I realize this is going back to my old inadequacies, things I hated about my old self. The reason a lot of those things bothered me because of the person, the ideas I built of myself, and again, just trying to sound smart or all that crap, right? Like
Yeah, be cool. Uh,
now now I accept that I'm probably going to say something dumb. So, but I usually clarify my dumb. You know, does that make sense?
well, yes. It's about as clear as mud. No, I completely get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
It, no matter what you say, if you say it, like I'm the sort of person who isn't overly eloquent with my words, but I know what I mean, and I'll get there eventually if you give me the chance to explain.
Oh yeah, I just over explain like crazy.
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
get started.
Uh you the thing is with you is that I can explain something normal and not over explain it, and you still think I'm over explaining it.
Who, me personally, or Ash, or just the
I'm
general
talking about
populace?
Ashley. I'm talking about Ashley.
There are a lot of times where I have to let you run your race. There's no stopping. And I'm sure a lot of people have to do that because they don't know how to do it properly. I can usually railroad you, that can get you there quicker and more simplified. But there are times where you'll start telling me about something or explaining something, and I'll look at you and say, that is exactly what I just told you in 10 times the words that you need.
Actually, you're crap at explaining anything.
Yes, but it is exactly what I said. And honestly, no, not all the time is it bad. Just I suck at English.
So that sounds like 100% of the time. I do love you. Oh, now she's doing that shit. If you haven't see that we need this. We haven't had like people and
You need
speak.
outside interaction every now and again. You just need to freshen up the vocabulary pool. just to get some fresh conversation in.
Also, I think we just needed yeah, let's do this in a public area where everyone can hear our but yeah, that's how bad I think that was the worst thing about having COVID. I think that was the worst thing about having COVID
Yeah.
was was um being stuck here, both of us being sick, getting frustrated with each other one way or another for different reasons. Um and she's talking about me going stir crazy. Yeah, we were both in the same boat at the time.
I know for a fact that when we were in the first lockdown in the UK and everything properly locked down, and it was like, the streets were empty, all the shops were shut. There were, queues around the supermarkets and things like that, and it was just like, you weren't talking to people in person. You only communicated with anyone via the phone or via sort of like messaging services. And at first, for the first 2 weeks, it was almost like a break from life. But I know that by the time it got to sort of 6 weeks in, I was like, genuinely, like, I need to sort of like hit my head against a brick wall physically. I actually need to actually do it just to have some kind of release of the tension of not having physical contact with people in any way. Like, I need to actually sort of, I need to get the fuck out of here. I love you guys, I really do. I love you guys, but I need to get the fuck out of this house. And
Yeah.
it was a lot. And I mean, like, now after that, I'm sort of like, the moment I'm stuck inside for a few days, the cabin fever is unreal. So I empathise with you completely. Like, I know exactly what you mean, and just, yeah, sometimes you just need to break it up. So have you been back out into the world since you've sort of like come out the other side of COVID? Or are you not allowed yet?
No, um we had to wait for the health department is what it was for us, but
Okay, do you want me to start?
can you not interrupt me? Like, can I finish what I'm saying?
This
I wasn't explaining a story. I was just
Can I
gonna say
finish, please? Can I finish?
anyways, we've been without symptoms for like following the COVID guidelines and everything like that. And again, I want to explain this was not explained to us, but we've been without symptoms for like 3 days, and our 10 days was up from her getting the thing, from getting the COVID test, everything like that. Um, and yeah, no, we went out, we went to Walmart and everything.
Good on you.
Like, but then we were told, hey, you need to get a call from the health department to get released, because we were trying to get her, because she needed to go back to work. So that was so basically, yeah. I mean, as soon as what was it? So as soon as you're not running a fever, and you're not showing any like major signs, like one of the things I know is like we're feeling a ton better, but we're still sore from all the muscles.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be a few more days. Um, but yeah, we got out. Like, again, going back to the whole thing you were talking about, lockdowns. Where the places I've been in the States never experienced the lockdown. Didn't have to, for the most part.
No.
And a lot of the people I hang around were either fuck it, I get COVID, or there were different people that we did the like when I was at Walmart and stuff like that, but yeah, we just never officially shut down in Kentucky, or at least in my area of Kentucky and everything like that. And people went
Yeah,
on with
no,
their
it's,
days.
it's very different. It's almost like a completely different state of affairs where you are to where I am. Like, it really is like, we have the mentality of like, well, we will just carry on life as normal and we still go, like, I was going for dog walks and things like that, but you go out, but none of our friends were accepting people into their homes because they were all fully in the mindset of it, and yeah,
Yeah,
you'd go out for dog walks and people would sort of like take a long walk around you, like,
yeah,
so they'd not have to make any contact with you. And it was like, it is mentally isolating, even though you're trying to go out into the world. Like, you just can't do any of the normal things, and everywhere you go, it's empty, and there's police walking around everywhere, and you just think, oh my god. And right now, they literally haven't got anything better to do because there's no one out on the streets to, like, what an
yeah.
easy job it must be for them to manage, because everyone was just like, yeah, okay, we'll go along with it. So yeah, it's quite strange. But I have got three sort of hot topic questions for you. So first of all, have either of you been vaccinated?
No,
Right, okay. And then second of all, did they give you anything to treat it when you're at the, like, so after you've
there,
like contacted
there
them and you've tested positive, was there anything that they gave you to make you feel better?
um,
So, I'd have.
okay, already,
So
but
what
you go.
they did was, I was sat out in the carport. The test was on, and
Yeah.
then they came back after positive. Yeah, you tested positive. Some things, but it'll only that it won't be COVID. Honestly, you could just do a mess. I was like, okay, then no thanks.
Right, okay.
Um,
Okay, yeah.
there are things that people are doing, but like a lot of places, like where I am and stuff like that, nobody has like everything for like helping COVID is still theoretical. Let's actually just be fair here.
Yeah.
There's no um there's nothing that is 100% proven to be helpful with COVID. The few things that are good for COVID. If you live somewhere like I am, go outside every day
Mm.
for a little bit, even if you're feeling rough. Fresh air will help you. you know,
Yeah.
um, like, but there's really, like I said, and again, I can't really talk on the thing because we didn't really get all that bad.
No.
I mean,
What would you
as
say it was like in comparison to other illnesses that you've had?
um, the only thing that I could compare it to was the flu.
Yeah.
But my flu, when I had the flu, I was times worse than I was this time. But the fatigue, muscle, all that stuff, the uncomfortableness and stuff like that. Because I also want to point out, I had the flu in summer. The only time I've ever had flu.
Yeah.
I had it in the summer, and I don't know if you understand how bad it is to have flu in the fucking summer.
Yeah, I'm well aware. Just
Uh,
hot and cold flushes is particularly hideous at any time of year, particularly in the summer. Yes.
But yeah, for me, I just don't have much to say about it. I've known plenty of people who had it, and for them, it hit them like a fucking truck. For me and Ashley, we really didn't get hit that hard. I don't
Breeze
really
through it.
um
I said you just breezed through it.
for us, we just hated everything. We listened we listened to a podcast. Like really, what we did is we listened to a podcast and played some video games. Like that's pretty much all we did.
I was playing a lot of mobile. My laptop is and we were listening to horror podcast. Actually, pretty good. It off
At
though
the
in the end,
last, yeah.
but overall, I want to say it was.
I don't want to talk about what it specifically is because I don't like just in case we don't want the ire of a fandom.
That's
But I have a lot of problems with that final season.
that's fair. I know. I've heard you bitching.
Well, I can't. Okay, I'm tired of. There's one thing when you're pandering, when you're making something that people want, but keeping the vision, keeping what it is, the heart of it, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're making changes. And then there's another where you do something for the fandom because you have this specific group of people who are just die hard, and that's what I think a lot of the stuff we're seeing in Hollywood and stuff is now. It's
Yeah.
and the biggest problem with something like this is they put in a relationship which they did not establish
Excuse
at
me,
all.
sorry.
No problem. But they did not establish this at all. Like for the first 3 seasons, and when you get into the final 2, then they have the whole thing going on, and they're like, ugh. The point is, when it finally goes to that, there's no chemistry. The actors don't. The writing's really bad for it, because they throw in a relationship that is not necessary at all.
But it's because the writers have fallen out of love with the characters because they're not their characters anymore. They're the characters that the audience is dictating, not what the writers are dictating.
Yeah, exactly. They're dictating it. They change the stuff for the fandom and everything like that.
Yeah.
And my issue was that, and that final season had some problems with certain episodes, but it still had ultimately still had a lot of the things, but it became focused around that relationship.
Yeah.
And again, the worst part is every time you heard them say "I love you" to each other, it was the most cringiest cringe. You know?
Yeah.
Because what it basically felt like is, have you ever watched those things where they're trying to tell you, they tell you that these things are happening, or they're trying to make you believe something?
What do you mean?
So okay, you are told this is the most badass person ever, right? They haven't
Yeah.
shown anything up to this point. They haven't done anything. They're trying to make you believe something by
Right. Yeah.
telling,
Yeah.
and it doesn't come through naturally at all.
Right. Okay. Yep.
What I call this is, I think it's called I think the funniest thing is that the character I'm about to talk about is actually badass when you first meet him, but it's Star Trek. It's Worf, right?
Right. Yeah.
After he's introduced to everything like that, they always have him be the guy that gets knocked out. Yeah, like the funniest one is he gets hit by a empty plastic barrel, basically. I'm sure it's supposed to have things on it, but he just goes down
Yeah.
like a bitch, and it's like, oh.
Yeah. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Yeah.
And so
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, good.
No, I was just going to say though, they've put all the plot points in place, but yeah, none of the characteristics of the actual character live up to the synopsis.
Oh, I'll give it even worse for you. In the first season, the main character hates this other character. Like, he's friendly,
Right.
but he hates this character. And then for the next 2 seasons, they don't even see each other.
Right.
Actually, for pretty much the rest of it, up until that point, they barely talk.
I do want to. They did live with. And the way the podcast is set up, we don't get everything at any. Only when there's something very important.
Well, the
Like,
same.
You would
say,
think that if they're setting up a relationship over a long period of time, that any interactions that they might have might be pivotal and
And
have.
and that whole living with each other is the first season where he cannot stand him.
I'm just saying, maybe I was starting to get more of it.
You mean that final season? That final.
Final said more.
He was nice to him because the main character wasn't a bad person. That
That's
didn't.
not what. Hey,
Okay,
you're doing the thing.
I'm doing the what?
You're starting to sit up ready to argue.
Because you're extrapolating information you don't have.
I'm just saying it's possible.
Then that should have come through in some of the pot. The point is we should have seen it in the, because again, they did a good job of establishing everybody else's friendships and relationships. They did. That's why it's a problem. I call this the Cora effect. If you know
Oh, it's
anything
funny.
about. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, carry on. No, carry on.
No, it's funny. Go ahead.
What's the core effect?
Okay, you know what Legend of Korra is?
Yes.
The sequel. So the final season of Korra, um, after all the things, is at the end of it, she suddenly is with Asami.
Mm.
No build up, nothing. Just that final season,
They just jump
yeah,
and miss all the plot points and all the story points, and finally she's where she needs to be so that they can complete the story.
yeah, and again, the only reveal they're together on the final episode, on the final scene.
Right. It's
Making
lazy storytelling.
it's making a bunch of leaps of logic, create characters, and these things, and all I'm saying is that it's bad storytelling. And when you
I agree.
revolve the final part on that concept that was never established, it literally will take you out of the, like, even if the rest of it's good, those few parts can sour everything because it. What's that?
There are so many different examples of it throughout the history of modern history of sort of media, television, and storytelling. I think
Yeah.
Lost is a perfect example.
Yeah. And I want to point out they did this with a bunch of characters in the story. So I got nothing for this show. Like I said, everything was really good in most of it though. Like honestly, it was worth listening to.
Right up until the end. I hate it when that happens with the series. I think there's so many series like that.
Problem is the last season isn't bad. Most of it. Like I said, most of it's not bad, but it's not that good because the part we're talking about pretty much invades it all the time and pulls you out of your immersion.
So what you're saying is that the average consumer might be able to eat this up quite happily, but somebody who analyzes the narrative and the plot structure like you do just cannot live knowing that there are plot points and I dropped out of this podcast.
Oh no. The funny part is you can ask Ashley, I was completely immersed in it, wasn't I? Like I was emotionally connected to this thing, like in a way that I have never been connected to a podcast. They did a really good job with the mystery and the storytelling and the
Yeah.
horror aspect. Like there are some stories that were legitimately scary, like messed up. We really liked it.
Ash, how did you get on with the last season without Raz's input and influence? What did you think of it?
Honestly, I was enjoying it because I do it felt almost worse. I know there between this being um there was like a year gap where they were living together by that point. So it happened between.
Oh, it didn't.
Yes, it did. If you paid attention,
No, the year jump.
that you
Okay.
because I remember one of the other characters mentioned that they got along and actually got together while living with. Yes, the character who had a crush on at the beginning mentioned "I love you" for that, but they weren't actually. They got together. Time skip. So I can understand that, but I still more gradual indication of the relationship happening. But
And what would
overall, I actually
do you think it's like because the like is it just because of the fandom pressure on it, or is it because like the writers dropped out or changed or something like that?
I
Is
actually
there?
have a bit of their stuff. I know for a fact they loved their family and the staffing at all, but they were rather talkative with their. But it was very obvious that they did actually have this. They didn't do it properly, in my opinion.
When they said that, it was the Q&A after it was done.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it
It
was.
almost feels
You
like
weren't there when I was listening to that Q&A. You were. It
No,
was a Q&A for like the third season.
nothing happened in.
Exactly. That's why I said plan from the beginning.
I don't believe it. There is nothing about that. I don't believe it.
I can hear your face from here. Stubborn, obstinate. Nope. Nope.
I don't believe it. Uh,
I feel punches
Trust me,
coming your
if
way.
they actually going their fandom stuff, it would be a lot worse from what I've seen.
right.
Trust me.
No, I think they ultimately kept the heart of their stuff.
There are a lot of things that would have been they actually putting fandom.
So is
There
it?
is
the point. That's
you
why
want
it's
to go?
called baby. That's why it's called pandering. They gave like enough and did it again.
Do you reckon there could be an issue with like not having enough time? But the thing is, with podcasts, you would assume that they would have the time and the resources to be able to do as many seasons as they wanted with it. But do you think that was like there's that aspect of it where they've just like rushed and to fit too much information in and ended up cutting out bits that they thought were irrelevant that really shouldn't have been cut out? Like gone, oh well, we can afford to drop this because the story can manage without it, and it was just a bad cutting decision, or is this just laziness?
Um, I no, the thing is, it's obvious these people had a passion for what they were doing.
Yeah,
But like I said, the final season's where the problems really lie. There are issues in the season 4. Because if I were to point out how long this podcast was, the episodes are only 20 to 24, like it was random how long they were, right? But pretty much a
yeah,
TV show. They had 40 episodes per season for 5 seasons.
right.
They actually only finished this year on it.
I mean, it sounds like they're people who struggle to keep things condensed. It almost sounds more likely that if these people actually care about their characters, what it's come down to is the fact that instead of being able to do 2 more seasons, they've been told they can only do 1 more season, and that they've got to fit 2 seasons worth of plot into 1 season's worth of time and episodes. And they're cutting out bits that they don't think are necessary, but it's what it's done is left huge illogical plot point holes from 1 season to the next that they have left like a dissonance between audience and character. Because it's such a shame. I hate it when you love characters and you love the story so much, and then it just you get right to the end and it doesn't feel right. It's almost like I'm having Game of Thrones PTSD.
Right. I don't think this was that. Hold on. I do want to point out, I don't think this was, I don't think this was
Excuse me, bless me.
Wow. I don't think this was a whole thing of that. Like I said, the other problem I had is that, and they did a great job all the way up till the end of this. They did a great job of showing all the character changes and everything like that. They obviously love their show and stuff like that, but it did feel like a portrayal when you see how different they are in that final season.
Yeah.
Specifically, the main character, who is honestly phenomenal, considering he's in almost every fucking episode. Almost every episode. And he has to carry it basically most of the time.
Mm.
I also want to point out that probably that final season is when we have the most of the other character, even in the story. Like, talking and everything like that. Like, he's pretty much almost in every episode. So. Yeah, go for it.
Well, in my opinion, going to definitely on me, with me. But I just feel like they suck at writing.
That could also be it.
Because not finished. Because there are different examples of relationships we have, but in every single one of them, even one that we both thought, hey, that actually does have a bit of a connection, a click that we could tell. Even then, it still didn't feel fully fluid. It didn't feel fully real, natural. They just write it properly. I think that was definitely because it ended up, since they started relationships by the end of the series, it was going down more than probably.
The other problem is that you could have made it work if the characters actually felt natural. If you know what I mean. It felt like the voice actors didn't do a good job of actually spending time together, establishing that spark. And like, going again back into my whole thing, and my only issue with this whole thing that she's talking about, the whole revelation of like this, like them getting together, only happens at the 4th season, and then it takes up at the but the problem was, he didn't really care. Like, he did not like this character all through season 1. He doesn't even see the character for 2 seasons. You never hear him really talk about him or anything like that. Even to the end of season 3, and then even that season, like, he's worried about him, and then that's when they start laying the little hints. But years have passed in this story, and there was no time jump, baby. Up until they went into the other thing, when the events of the 4th season. And the main character was going crazy the whole time.
I'm like half tempted to go and track this podcast down and dedicate like
I
2 weeks to listening to that every single minute of it, just so that I can come and adjudicate this for you. Like, but I am a massive pansy when it comes to horrors.
I think you'll really like it. I think you'll really like it. Even if that's the case, it's all done audio podcasting. Like, it's really good.
Probably worse. Like, you don't know what my imagination is like. Dark
No,
up
I
there.
understand. No, I understand. While we were watching it, I don't normally do this. I get extremely paranoid when it comes to watching creepy. Like in the moment, I'm perfectly fine. It's cool shit. But once I get up to go somewhere or something like that, nah, light.
I'm a visual medium when it comes to stuff like that.
No, my imagination is horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be scared of things like that, but like I got so used to walking in the dark and everything like that in places like where I live. So, like,
See, all that stuff is absolutely fine. My big thing is feeding my imagination stuff so that when I go to sleep at night and like I get into that REM and all those dreams start kicking in. Like, my head movies just don't need any more inspiration for dark shit to throw at me when I'm in my most vulnerable state, because that's what it does. That's what horror movies do. It feeds into my nightmare complex, and I have horrendous nightmares or night terrors or whatever it is that you guys call them. I don't have them frequently anymore, but when I do have them, it is one of those where I wake up cold sweats, like having to have panic attacks, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, really, really, really intense stuff. So I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine watching it. I'll hide behind a blanket. That's all good. Scary, scary. I can get up, walk around. I can go around, walk in the dark. I'm all good. And then it might be 2 weeks later. It might be 3 months later. It could be years later. And then all of a sudden, something will trigger it, and I'll be having a nightmare about all these scary things that I wouldn't have even had the imagination to have thought of if I hadn't invested into somebody else's crazy, messed up fucking imagination.
right?
It's like we all some dark people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Part of this is my mother's fault. Growing up, my mother could not watch horror movies by herself, so I'm 4 or 5 years old watching horror movies with my mother.
I
It's all
like
the
the
classic.
you're the emotional blanket at like 5 years old.
I mean, but it made me grow a good love with with the classic, like with what I consider like a lot of the classic horror and what I like in horror and stuff like that. And then throw in the fact that I'm more cerebral, so I like the existential horror of like Cthulhu and stuff like that. The nightmarish, and when it's done right, a lot of people, and it's something I've been working on, but when it's done right, that can be some of the best horror. And considering that H.P. Lovecraft ended up inspiring a fuck ton of modern horror writers and directors, not surprising.
Have you written much horror?
I usually tamper into it, like, since I do a lot of supernatural and stuff like that. I've always liked doing the combination of horror, fantasy, and then if I'm a huge fan of like the survival horror video games and stuff like that. But I have never written a straight horror, and it's because I'm not good at grimdark storytelling.
Grimdark.
So yeah, so that's actually about the show, is that it's a grimdark storytelling. But grimdark is basically where everything is constantly fucked. It's the monster wins in the end. But, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The and nothing gets better for the characters.
Oh.
It's also considered very edgy. Like when you take, like, another thing I really like is Warhammer 40K. But the problem that that for me, I like the settings for that, but I do get bored with them because there's only so much shit until you need a release. Why actually quite a bit of horror I just don't like. You know,
Yeah.
doesn't mean I want a cookie cutter in a good ending or anything. And sometimes, if it's earned, a horror ending like that, um, when you do it with the monster in and everyone dies or anything like that, you can do it really well. And that's even like again, a lot of H.P. Lovecraft stuff is even though the character might live in the end, he's locked in a fucking insane asylum for the rest of his life.
Yeah, it's a bittersweet ending.
Yep.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm not even gonna pretend like my favorite horror franchise is probably both Puppet Master and Evil Dead. And yes, I know Puppet Master is fucking schlocky bullshit, but those puppets are so cool. I love them.
I don't think I've seen Puppet Master, but Evil Dead I'm very familiar with.
Well, yeah, like the second one, the second Evil Dead is amazing because it has both the dark horror, has some comedy, has moments of, but it does all the right things of levity, comedy, and even though shit keeps piling on to Ash, um, it it doesn't, there he's just a great character, but that mixture of
He
comedy
is
and
just a
horror.
phenomenal character, isn't he?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Ash for me, is the okay. So you know that the Freddy versus Jason movie, right?
Yeah.
Did you know there was supposed to be a sequel?
I'm surprised there isn't one.
Do you know why there's not a sequel?
Why is there not a sequel?
Well, originally they were wanting to do a Freddy versus Jason versus the Evil Dead versus Ash. The
Right, okay.
the reason they didn't want to do it is because they didn't think because Ash was a normal man and shouldn't, survive or, like they just didn't like the idea of somebody being able to fight,
A
and
mortal
win.
man.
But that movie would have been a phenomenal Bruce Campbell versus Freddy. Could you imagine the jokes from Freddy? And again, I want to point out the Deadites are already kind of funny.
Yeah.
But could you imagine Bruce Campbell against Freddy and Jason?
I mean, it would be glorious.
And he would have got his shit kicked out of him. This is the part I don't think the creators understood. Ash would have won, but it wasn't going to be like he beat up Jason and Freddy. He would have got his ass kicked
Yeah.
so much. And
Oh,
they
yeah.
even
It would have been a brutal movie.
and what's kind of cool, and I actually agree with this, is that they were going to make Freddy and Jason Deadites, which makes sense.
Yeah. It fits.
I I'm a like I said, I'm a huge fan of that. I have a love-hate relationship though with the Ash versus Evil Dead TV show though.
Why is that?
Um, it's gloriously terrible at times.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
There's some boring
I'm sure
episodes,
that's what it's supposed to be.
but there's just some boring episodes.
Yeah.
And I blame this more on the fact that Sam Raimi didn't actually direct it all. I think it's because there was a bunch of different directors and people might not
Yeah.
like this whole thing, but not all directors are good. Not all writers are good.
No, this is a fact.
Um and
Yeah.
but I still enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I still enjoyed what I
Oh,
saw.
yeah.
I do think I'm Now, I don't think I've actually seen the final season. I think there was another season that came out that I haven't seen yet, so it might end phenomenally.
Um,
How many
I
seasons are
mean,
there?
I definitely saw the third season. I definitely saw the last season, and I definitely saw how it ended, and it was a pretty epic ending. It went a little bit all over the place towards the end, and of course they started bringing in extra characters for the last season as well. So yeah, there was all kinds of stuff going on. It got a little bit convoluted for a little bit towards the end, but then the final ending on the last episode was as epic as Ash deserved. So yeah, it's worth a watch. It's worth a watch that last season. But
Right.
obviously, you're going into it with the right mentality because you're taking it tongue in cheek. Like, you love the franchise, you love the idea, you understand that parts of it are going to be lost in translation because it's had 30 years, and now the people who are writing it are the people who were nerding over it when it first came out. So, you end up, it does get tainted in the process, unfortunately.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay, I do remember the final season now. I thought I had, but I had watched it. I forgot I had seen it last year.
You just did a little bit of Google research in the background.
Yeah,
Enhance.
yeah, absolutely. I had to check, but yeah, I remember now, and I am, and the worst part is it got canceled, so we're never getting that season 4. So
No.
it's
They're cancelling everything nowadays. Anything that's worth watching on TV has been cancelled.
yeah. Um, but yeah, like I said, it's just one of those things is that, like I said, I do love, but I do love horror. I love the psychological horror is probably where I fit the most in for something.
Mm,
Um, and the only reason for it is just I've always liked, uh, it's kind of funny as people are trying to make fun of existential dread now, being like, oh, people are afraid of taxes and stuff like that. I'm like, trying to play it off like why Steve. No, the reason that a lot of horror films like that don't work for adults is people like um people are still scared of things they don't know or understand. The fear of the unknown is powerful when you do it
mm,
right. But when you have a bunch of shitty writers, what are you expecting?
yeah.
Um, and what are people afraid of today? What is the existential threats and stuff like that? And I think part of it is just people don't have, like, that's the one thing I think you can really do if you can really touch upon, like, going back to like HP Lovecraft and stuff like that, is the modern day technology and everything like that, and thinking that for that we just know all the thing, all the things and stuff like that, right? The death of
Yeah.
superstition. But no, like I said, if you do it right, there's all kinds of things that you can really do with that.
I mean, you're right in the fact that like society has evolved in a way, culture has evolved in a way that we're sort of like we're terrified of new things now. Like the things that were scary 30 years ago aren't the same things that are scary now. And actually, if you like go into psychological thrillers, they are slightly more terrifying. For the simple fact that we all live quite comfortable lives generally in the Western world. Like
Yeah,
I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who do live in very dangerous situations. I am one of these people who is lucky enough to not live in a dangerous situation, so I have the arrogance of being able to not really be scared of day to day life of like all these terrible things that come up in movies. I'm not going into any weird European hostels or anything like that. Um,
yeah,
but I think, for me now, like psychological thrillers are definitely what's a more terrifying prospect for me.
Well,
For the sorts of things that can fuck with your head and turn you inside out.
think about what are like the popular, like what are some of the best horror films. You have something like, even though I don't know why they connected it to it, but you have like the uh Cloverfield Lane, right?
Right?
Have you
Yeah.
seen it? It is a movie literally with people locked in a basement, not with a crazy guy telling them that aliens have attacked outside and to not go outside, that they are safer there,
Yeah.
and build up this great horror just to escape.
I
Um,
mean, it's genius, really. I like acting that is good enough, acting and writing that is good enough to uphold an hour and a half and keep your attention for that long in basically a shoebox.
yeah. And again, so something I was talking about before. One of the things that I think a lot of people don't comprehend, um, is like I was talking when we were talking the other day. There's a difference between being able to go somewhere and not, and being in your home. But imagine a thing where, like, you look at this where you have the whole situation where you have your room, every day is the same, like, stuff like that. But then suddenly, every time you try to leave your room, you keep re-entering in it. Clock is stopped. Nobody's calling. Can't leave. You know.
Mm,
But then imagine, but you don't do the thing where you disconnect everything. Have it where you can, you know, can still access things, right? Or things, you imagine getting everything you want that you think you want, right? And losing all of the interest, all the love for it, you know?
the story of just about every person that ever got rich, right?
Uh, right? Well, except they can still go places, but but they always find worse things to do to get their jollies off. My
Yeah, I
point,
suppose.
my point was about, imagine having all the isolate,
Yeah.
not being able to go, not being able to tell time, not oblivion. You know, did you imagine that? You're talking about your cabin fever.
I'm literally like I'm sat here right now trying to imagine the concept of being in a situation where I just don't know what the time is or what day it is. I mean, like it's you have it when you where I hurt my back a couple of weeks ago, and I took some particularly strong muscle relaxants and spent a couple of days on another planet and wasn't really sure what day of the week it was or anything like that. It's so disorientating. But then all it takes is a glance at a phone, to be able to ground yourself back onto where you're supposed to be.
Right.
The idea of just living perpetually in that state, it actually took me for a minute. It was just like, actually, no, no, I don't think I could handle that.
Everyone has all these good talks and everything that they want, everything like that. But reality is most people aren't. Doing something you choose to do is not the same thing of not having the choice.
Mm.
And again, it's about for me existentially. It's most of it's mental health stuff. Again, imagine having something that you love and then brought to hate it. You
I
know,
mean, that was always a fear of mine with music when I was younger. It's one of the reasons why lots of people said to me when I was younger, "Why did you not? Why was it not something that you pursued, sort of in an education format?" And I was like, because I didn't want to drain the fun out of it. I didn't want to drain the joy out of it. I knew that if I decided that I was going to spend my whole life and make my whole life about music, and I was going to learn it, and I was going to like make a career out of it, and I was going to fill my entire life with it. I was like, I know the sort of person that I am, and I know that in 5 years down the line, I'd just be like, ugh. That sort of thing, because you can easily suck the joy out of anything.
Yeah,
And that is a fear. That is a fear of mine, of something. If you have something that you truly love, that you can push yourself to a point that you just don't, you nothing it. Like, it's not even I hate it. I just nothing. I just don't care for it at all.
yeah. Like I said, it's a problem. And again, this is why I kind of like the natural. And I'm talking about something, but let's add something more. Now you're stuck in your room and know that you constantly have the paranoia that you know somebody there watching you, tracking you. There's an insane that has enjoyment from your suffering.
Has a purpose for your suffering.
Doesn't have to be purpose. Just that
That,
you are
that's
there to enjoy.
unnerving. That specifically is unnerving. I mean, even to have a purpose, even if there was something like there is a reason, like there is somebody that I can't see and they have a reason to keep me here in this perpetual state, that is something to be paranoid about in itself. But to actually think that someone is sat there taking joy from it, that's a whole new level of paranoia.
Yeah. Um. Like. And again, this is something that is there that is perpetuating your thing, and again, gaslighting you in different ways.
Yeah.
Like. Like. Like okay, so like one of the things me and Ashley talked about is I created a monster, a thing of madness, right? Looks like a normal dude, like a sweat has a turtleneck and looks, the most generic white dude, right? That's the way I'm gonna put
Right.
it. Um, but when you hang out with him, he seems nice and friendly. But when you hang out with him, you know, um, uh, he's talking calmly and he tells you suddenly, hey, uh, stop yelling at me. And then suddenly you're getting angry, you keep switching from hot and cold, from hot and cold, and suddenly you're bipolar as you're talking to him. And then he tells you he's just curing you of your madness.
I feel
Suddenly,
like you're like trying to break me.
huh?
I feel like you're trying to break me.
I'm not trying to break you. I'm just trying to put you in the mindset of where I come from with stuff like this in my own head. Like,
Yeah, you dark twisted man.
again, you start seeing, like, again, you have none of the mental things of another thing. You're walking down the road with him, and you turn around and you start seeing, looks like people are following you, and it tells you don't pay attention to, you know things like that. And you're slowly going crazy, start seeing designs and everything, and it's just from you dealing with him and how and again, he's basically a gaslighting monster who's giving you actual insanity.
Oh my god, it sounds like what you're describing is Captain Paranoia, who's the entity my mum told me about when I was a child. I was a teenager, and she was like, "Oh," I was trying to explain to her. I was like, "All these people were talking, saying things about me," and she was like, "They, them, sounds like you've got a case of Captain Paranoia." And I was like, "Who the fuck is Captain Paranoia?" And she was like, "Well, like captains have a pirate that sits on their shoulder, you have like a little pirate captain that sits on your shoulder," and he just says like, "Oh, don't worry about what that person's saying." And they probably are looking at you, but just look in the opposite direction. And he just sits there and whispers these things in your ear, making you more and more paranoid as the day goes on. It almost sounds like a manifestation of the same entity, but in a different realm. He's a relative within the same sort of genetic family.
Oh, and the worst part is he's a friendly face. Just a
Yeah,
normal, average, friendly person.
yeah.
And he tells you that it's okay, you're just seeing the world as I see it.
The gaslighting monster and Captain Paranoia. Yeah, I reckon they are probably sort of like genetic descendants from sort of prehistoric times, split off across different continents and sort of evolved separately in two different countries. Yeah, you tell I'm getting tired now. I'm getting to the point where I'm just getting weird. But that's right because it sounds like we're on a level though.
Yeah. And again, going into another thing, like why do we tell stories of like again, and I want to point out that modern story, like how urban legends and modern storytelling and like different horror tales do it is based on the fears of the time period. Here, in this time period, we have fears of mental illness, loss of identity.
Yeah,
Those are the things like existential threat is absolutely what we're scared of. But
yeah,
what is the existential threat that you should fear? And again, yeah, people are worried about taxes and stuff like that, but the reality is people are scared of not being useful, not being wanted, not being accepted, not all these things, and we keep creating these ideal. And again, the biggest problem is that we're our own monsters a lot of time because we dive ourselves completely into these ideals, and anything that gets in our way has to be not only rebuked, but it's destroyed.
yeah.
And again, a good horror story would be able to deal with that level of existential problems. And again, we live in a time period where people, there are no higher beings and all this stuff like that. You might have people with believing in spiritualism, but like again, the death of superstition. That's what creates the idea. That's why like taking something like um we have Slender Man and all those things that came out, like people got back into monsters for a while, but again, another scary thing, you take like the existential threat of government and everything like that. Uh, you know, uh Big Brother cameras everywhere and stuff like that. Think of the
Mm.
storylines you can do with that.
Oh yeah. I mean, in all honesty, let's face it. I think Black Mirror um, isn't one of the best ones because as much as I love their storytelling, like and some of the concepts that they've come up with for their I haven't watched too many of them because I genuinely get quite sort of unnerved by them. I think the
Yeah,
social credit score one was the last one that I watched, where I
yeah,
was just like, yeah, do you know what? I'm okay without this because I feel like this is just a little bit too close for comfort. But yeah, I mean, they do a fantastic job of doing sort of like you say, doing the reflection of society and doing the psychological thriller aspect of like the many different dark fragmented reflections of what we're doing now and where it could what lead to because it could go any direction, couldn't it? It really
yeah,
could. But no, I definitely think there's been something that I've been sort of like I'm an agnostic person. I look at the world and I I said to Alex the other day, I was like feel like there are things that I look at in the world right now and I can put my finger on it and go, that is something that I would define as being inherently evil. Like, and if I can acknowledge that something is inherently evil, then that means that there must be an opposing, like equal and opposite force. Because I also believe in science to a certain extent, and I do believe that any energy exists with an equal and opposite force.
right.
So I'm like, so if that's something that I can say I inherently see that, then what does that mean for the other side of it? And where am I falling on this scale right now? Because I've always been somebody that has been quite staunchly, not religious. So yeah, it's definitely been something that I've been looking at recently. Where I'm like, yeah, no, I can definitely see inherent acts of evil in the world, and maybe that's the other thing about horror as well, is that, you know, back in even 20 years ago, you didn't have access to the very very real acts of human indecency that we are capable of, quite to the extent that you do now. Like, it's almost like you can't hide. There is nowhere for these people to hide. If they want to show you the acts that they're going to commit, and that be that, watching people having been beheaded, or murdered,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, and certainly not condoning any of it, but you become desensitized to everything in to such an extent that, like, you know how much gore, like, can you use for it to still be scary
Yeah.
in a movie? Like, you have to. I think horror definitely needs to start taking a slightly more, yeah, internal approach, because I do think that we as a species have just become so desensitized to the horrors of humanity now. We're so
Well,
used to it.
it's kind of funny as you say that, but I actually disagree. Again, about the horrors of humanity and stuff like that. Unlike today, how, like, I would actually say that today we're more misinformed on it, because the thing is that we were told about it when now we can. Again, we were told
Yeah,
all the time of all the horrors and terrors and history. And again, they're trying to. So it's really funny watching them trying to wash away history,
I
real
know.
history of all the atrocities and stuff like that of the past, but not. But again, we see all the actual terrible things happening. It's a
Yeah,
weird dichotomy, but again, if I had to do something on horror, again, what is the modern day things that we're scared of that create urban legends? Misinformation, um, being watched all the time, paranoia. Like, again, I can go into all these things right now with all the pandemic scare. We watched people go absolutely crazy because they
yeah,
had their worlds crushed, and you entered an existing thing. And the problem is, it and this is where I'm always going to revert back. Like, what is it that you believe in? And you know, like, I'll talk about a little bit. Like, I have my faith, but what I focus on mostly, I've said this a lot of times, even though I am Christian, um, I have a completely different connection to it. Is that, we we have been created with all the tools that we have to overcome our problems.
mm,
I believe in human exceptionalism, and, like, what is ultimately good is creating that moral and ethical viewpoint, letting the strength of character coming from these things, accepting that you have flaws, that you'll make mistakes, learning forgive. Like, those are the things that make us a species unlike any other species, different. Our
yeah,
ability to think. The fact that we could do something like, again, a lot of animals do things because it is their nature. That they might have a level of thought process, but they don't. Most of them do not have a sense of self. This is a problem that we ultimately have. The fact that we can create the concept of good and evil. With the animal kingdom, animals are. We don't actually look at rabid dogs and think a rabid dog is evil. We don't.
no,
They're horrifying. They're scary, but they're not evil because they are not. Because again, they are only features of what they can do. You know,
yeah.
we
It's the malice and the forethought and all the other bits that go into being a human. The
yeah,
sentient aspect of it, the conscious willingness to do these things for pleasure.
you can make a dog hateful. You can make a dog scared and hateful and attack things because that is that like I said, you can do the things to create that essence, right?
Yeah.
Humans can choose. We can literally choose to not do those. We can literally choose any choice we. And the fact that we um are predisposed because of comfort and everything like that to be more lazy because of that means that the only good you can find is in the choice of doing things. And again, evil is the same way. Evil is a choice. People who are
Yeah.
terrible, the reason they got there is they just are more hungry than you. But the other issue is that doing the right thing or doing the good things, doing the difficult is a much more difficult path. That is the reality of it.
Yeah. It's not easy either.
But it shouldn't be.
Yeah. No,
I know people get so mad at me for this, but good.
yeah. No, no, I'm glad because yeah. I mean, I did like some tough love, some productive bullying.
Productive bullying. That's a good one. I
But
like that.
yeah, it was. I'm good at bullying myself and wallowing in my own self pity. That's something that I've had nailed for 30 odd years. Um, but the actual act of doing it in a way where it's not so much like you suck, you suck, you suck. It's the voice that gets up and goes, "Well, what the fuck you gonna do about it then? Hey, you know, you don't
Yeah.
like it. What you gonna fucking do about it? And go,
And
well, yeah, all right then. Well, I'm gonna do this about it. I'm gonna do that about it, and that's been it's been productive. It's been good. But it did take a month of productive bullying to get to that point. It wasn't fun getting there, but
oh
I
yeah.
think I'm on my way. I think I'm actually case of going back, working on the foundation stones, and actually doing all the things that you like. These are shit jobs that I don't really want to do, and I would much rather do things that I enjoy doing. I'd rather go and see my friends. I'd rather be a social person. But actually, what I need to do is concentrate on myself and my home and like life admin and sorting shit out
Yeah.
and building out from the ground up, because then the things that I want to do, I will take pleasure in doing. I won't be holding myself back from doing. I won't be getting anxious about the things that I want to be doing because I know that I've done the pre steps. I've it's like I've been glossing the whole way. So let's put it in this sense. I've prepped everything at this point. I'm doing the prep work before
Right.
I actually get to do the easy job. Just before it's all complete. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. But it's taken a while. You know full well how long it's taken me to get to the point where I'm actually like, yeah, stop talking about it. It's
Yeah.
almost like I've had to let it all sink in, and
Yep.
then fuck up a few times, and take a break, and let the muscle memory kick in.
Yep.
As if like you've trained yourself to do this. You know what you're doing. You've fumbled it a couple of times. Take a breather, get back to it, and then you'll be away. Be like a duck to water, like a kid riding without the stabilizers on.
Oh, yep. Yeah. I mean,
So,
you pretty much hit the nail on the thing. Is like I said, the important part is what you're going to do about it.
yeah,
It's not about you know, um, it's it's the fun part. I will say that it's not the fun part. It's the worst part. But but the one good thing is that when you get to that point, it gets a lot easier to start just that saying to yourself, "Hey, what are you going to do about like again becoming a problem solver is not a bad thing." A
yeah,
lot of people don't actually want their problems solved. And I say it that way. See again, people want to solve their problems, but they don't want their problems solved because they don't, because there's that point where you have to realize that the only person who can solve that problem,
Yeah,
others can't do it for you. Nobody can do it for you.
that was a lot of what that month consisted of.
Right?
You know, it's been it was my 6 months prior to that had been filled with a lot of good advice, a lot of like twists and turns, a lot of inward pointing, a lot of outward pointing, a lot of sort of like blame shifting and all sorts of stuff. You know, and then that month was the sort of like sitting down and going, yeah, see, this looks like a you job. This sounds like a you problem. And I think you're gonna have to fucking deal with this. And that's kind of been sort of like, yeah, when you sat there and it's sort of like, you know, you can have those thoughts and then you distract yourself from them by doing the things you'd rather be doing. Like,
Yep.
you know, but then sitting there and having to, like, you know, I wasn't well. I was on sort of lockdown from, you know, I'd shut myself out of the internet sort of thing,
Yeah.
because I needed to sort of like, I just wanted to feel better, and it was taking it out of me, but having an online presence at all. And yeah, so I did spend a lot of time very much with myself. And yeah, that was essentially the outcome. So it was, but like, again, like I said, it was all the stuff that I have been told, all the stuff that I knew already, all the stuff that had been hammered into me over months of conversation,
Yeah.
And then letting it actually sink in for a bit, and sort of, yeah. So yeah, we're getting there. I am getting there. It's been fun. I don't know what advice I've got to give to anyone else. It's unfortunately it's all the cliche stuff. It's like literally everything. Just get up and do it every day. Write a list. So you know where you know get your goals written down, actually physically written down, and so that you can tick them off as you go. All of the things. It's just a cliche, a fucking massive cliche, and I will probably stumble again before I get very far with it, but we will see.
You know what is going to make the difference between just giving advice and actually providing good idea? When you actually start living it yourself and the conviction comes in. I don't mean that kind of false conviction that you hear people always, you should do things this way. If they are not seeing you, or if they are not viewing progress you're making, you're just giving you platitude. Does that make sense?
Yeah. In all honesty, for me, it's been a case of like, you know, it doesn't really matter what anyone else is saying or how anyone else is telling me to do it at this moment in time, because, you know, I can it without being too sort of, I don't know, romanticized about it, but it is definitely good for the soul when you like, you know, you get on with something and you do a job where it's like, I've been putting this off and I don't really want to do it, and there are other things that I wanted to be doing, but I found that I'd taken the joy out of doing the things that I wanted to do. I couldn't sit down and play a game and enjoy it because I was like, you could be doing this. Like, you know, those sorts of thoughts where it's just sort of like I'd got into my own head, I'd got under my own skin, I'd taken the joy out of doing other things, where it's like now I'm taking joy out of things that I need to be doing, and you get to the end of the day and you just a pat on the back, pat myself on the back. I feel good about what I did today. I put a good day's work in. I, like, you know, I got my hands dirty, I got my knees dirty, I got my mind bogged down with the actual problems and like finding solutions and stuff like that. And it's good for the soul.
Yeah,
it makes you feel like a better person. You get more satisfaction and dopamine from that than you do from the quick fixes of going out and doing all the fun things. You know, not that I have a particularly exciting or fun life. It's just that, you know, I do what I want to do for a bit, and I don't necessarily do a little bit of everything that I want to do, and I never make any progress, and I need to stop. But yes, there's still time to have fun. There's still time to do Morgan things at the end of each week and for a couple of hours at the end of every day. But There are so many hours in the day. What are you doing with them?
Yeah. Well, the problem that you always come down to is you say you're having fun, but it's just a lot of times that stuff is
Yeah,
cluster. Especially if
yeah,
you're doing it more than doing the other, because
yeah,
now that is it's me.
yeah. And I
Uh,
mean,
go ahead.
being selfish has been the biggest thing as well. Sort of like, I've been the first stage of patching my soul up from where it was broken was sort of rekindling relationships that I had broken, and I've spent a good year fixing those. And now, sort of like that, you're in a position where you're safe and comfortable in these relationships. You know that your friends aren't going anywhere. You know that your sort of like extended family unit is well and truly in place. You know, well, you don't need to keep pandering to that. Like, you need to do you stuff. It's time to be
Yeah.
selfish.
Oh,
So yeah, the words of a wise man still echo.
you know, Callie said something about patting themselves on the back for getting out of bed. You know what? No, that's a good thing. Never. I've told this story a few times in the podcast, but just to reiterate, I was at a point where my wins for the day was getting out of bed, taking a shower every day, eating correctly, like all those tiny goals that seem like normal to other people were the things that helped me because I couldn't I didn't know how to take care of myself. So don't feel bad for that because you got to start somewhere.
Brushing my hair was one at one point. It was like I could get up, I could do all of the things, but like you couldn't get a coat brush through my hair because it's like it's got 4 days of just matting it. Or I've been like, no, no, so we all have those little challenges, and we all get to that point where we get so far like let down that
Oh yeah.
outside, that was a big thing for me as well. I was going outside. That's why lockdown, I think, was so detrimental for me, because I am very much the sort of person who, given the opportunity, can quite easily become quite agoraphobic, and get very, very put off by outside situations and leaving the comfort of my little zone and my little nest.
Yeah.
And it's something that can easily overcome you if you just have to spend a couple of weeks inside being sick, or for whatever reason it is, let alone when you've got a mandate telling you that you're not allowed to leave your fucking house. So
Right.
we've all got every battle. There's no battle. Each mountain is relative in size. It's the
Yep.
joyous theory of relativity. All of our battles are relative to each person, depending on which
Yep.
battles have come before it.
Yep. Yep. And and like I said, I have all kinds of things I can say, but the funny part about a lot of my advice I'm quotating is it always comes down to this: do what is right for you. You know, uh,
Yeah,
like like I never tell people how to live lives. I just tell you how to get to what are the tools necessary to figure out what is good for you. I think that's what people need is they don't need to be told how to live. They need to be given tools to figure it out for themselves.
no, and I think like one of the things that you have breached from day one is that everything is about self-analysis. Like, I agree that, and like, my whole thing is that there is a scale. You can become too involved in yourself, but there is no way that you're ever going to be able to improve yourself unless you're actually willing to take a good hard look at yourself, a good hard look at, and not through jaded and the opaque glass that is your own ego.
Yep.
You've got to be able to sort of like tear yourself down from your own bullshit. You've got to, and it's a long and hard process to actually be able to go, no, this is bullshit, and it's bullshit, and the only person who can stop this bullshit is you. Like, that is a hard conversation for anyone to have, and you have to do it if you're going to get somewhere, because, like you say, you can give someone all the advice and all the tools in the world, but without the motivation and the the understanding and the knowledge of how to apply it to oneself, it's on deaf ears. Like, it has to come from within. Everything has to come from within. The
It's
only
kind of
thing.
fun. What's kind of funny is one thing that I think out of anything I say, anything other than what you're doing now, do anything else than what you're doing. One thing, you know, make one small change and see how it goes.
Do anything than what you're doing. Well, it's gonna sound like I'm hanging up, but no, I'm doing it. Just doing. It's
Yeah.
just do anything but this. Oh, that's a bit rude. Um,
Well, I just meant when it comes to like what people are doing, when it comes to the stuff like, listen, if you if you have a coping mechanism to deal with problems that it doesn't actually solve your problem, why do
change
you
it.
keep doing it? That's simple of a question. Why do you keep doing something that's not helping you?
It's such a simple question with a really, really, really complex. Well, I mean, it's a simple answer, but the average person can't answer it because it's a simple answer that they don't want to answer. Like,
Yeah.
but like I say, it takes time. Not everyone's going to do it overnight.
Oh, nobody does it overnight. I never. Again, time is the thing, but you have to start something. Start
Yeah,
something.
and
And
you have to want it.
yeah, you have to want it. And I hate to do this, but I actually have to. We went over like 35 minutes, so we're probably going to need to end the podcast now.
Oh shit! Yeah, you've got to go see your mama.
Yep. Yeah. 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 Oh, I can't wait because I haven't seen my daughter in 2 weeks. So, and
Oh my god, are you going to see your daughter as well? Oh, right, okay, well, good.
yeah.
Tell me to bugger off.
Well, you know I
I'm
love
not
you, Morgan.
offended.
You know I love
And
you, Morgan.
I know, but I wouldn't be offended. Like, there are levels to friendship, and like, I definitely understand that I come somewhat below your daughter
Yeah,
on
but
the
hey,
pecking order. So that's fair, and I'm totally cool with it, and I endorse it entirely. So
yeah, but yeah, I think that this is all going to be for the day. So let's start getting any last comments.
no, I mean, I quite enjoy talking about narrative structure, regardless of whatever it is, even if it's horror, which is totally not my forte. But stay happy, people. Keep working, and we will be back. We always are.
Yeah, and we might have to miss ever so often for horrible
Life.
life. Yeah, but yeah, no, this is all. Like I said, this is always fun. And yep, you have a great one, Callie. Um, anyways, I think that's it. Goodbye, Ashley. He fell asleep, I
Bye,
guess.
Ash.
Say bye, Morgan.
Ta-ra.
And all right, thank you guys for coming. And anyone listening to this podcast after, thanks for hanging out and everything like that. This is the Spoken Word with Raz. You guys have a wonderful day, evening, whatever it is for you.